even forgot. So I'm recording it, please. Sorry about that. You have not gone anywhere. Now, so you have Ferdinand de Saussure as the main person, the Swiss linguist. Then it became, because of the influence of the French, Claude Lévi-Strauss was a French anthropologist. Lévi-Strauss. He is the one who indeed popularized it among the French people. And in fact, many will trace it to him. So the two main names you have to keep in mind, de Saussure, the Swiss, and then Claude Lévi-Strauss, the French. Okay. Now, following that, somebody like Jacques Lacan, also French, apply it to Marxism and show how it works. Sorry, it's not Lacan. I apply it to Lacan. Apply it to Freud psychoanalysis. Louis Althusser applied it to Marxism. Okay, so we will see that. Then you move on to post-structuralism. Post-structuralism, this is where it gets interesting, and I'll use this, keep these names in mind. The leading person with post-structuralism is a gentleman by the name Jacques Derrida. Jacques Derrida. Jacques Derrida is the one who introduced to us the concept of deconstruction. Deconstruction can also be called deconstructionism, but that is Jacques Derrida's creation. He introduced a whole bunch of terms, make structuralism complicated, and that is where it became known as post-structuralism. He introduced, his main argument is that language and meaning comes to us through difference. You get into all these things. In fact, language and meaning don't even exist. You can see how complicated it's going. So he talked about non-present, the idea of trace, the idea of deferrum, the idea of deconstruction. Fine. Then following that, it got into the hands of people like, let me just hear, people like Michel Foucault. You can see that when it became more political, more social. So post-structuralism is the beginning of the reaction to structuralism. But when it became bigger and move away from the linguistic to political and social movement, it became well known in the world, really, as postmodernism. And then they also added some tenets, some concepts, some principles to it. Here, the key ones is the fact that knowledge is really fragmented. Knowledge is really relative. There's nothing objective knowledge. Knowledge is really placed on the reality of difference. Again, you can hear them repeating the idea of difference. In fact, the core sentiment in post-structuralism and postmodernism is one of difference. Please keep that in your mind, okay? And then, of course, so here, the names that you have to keep in mind in terms of postmodernism, by the time it became global, will be a French by the name Michel Foucault. You check carefully how the name is spelled and how it is pronounced. Michel Foucault. We have one gentleman we call Jean-Francois Lyotard. You have another gentleman we call Jean Baudrillard. This Baudrillard, for instance, will move ideas to some levels that your head will spin. He called himself a fatal theorist. He will push theories to the edge of their collapse. So you will see some of these interesting ideas. And now this is the Saussure. Okay, so now I've explained it also, we can be moving on. So the root of it is a reaction to phenomenology, reaction to social analysts who believe that the inner self was being repressed. Karl Marx saying the inner self is being alienated. So structuralists are coming in and they are reacting against that sentiment. So they believe that language and culture are the source of meaning, not the inner self. I've already talked about that. So it is the language and culture that is mediating between we human beings and any object. So the source of meaning is really, you can't get any meaning through, well, unless you go through language and culture. That is the main argument. I think that is really clear. Now, let's fortify our understanding far more. Language is something, so now I'm bringing it to the analysis of language and others. Language is something, if you remember, or better still, have you ever thought about how we as human beings got to our language? Okay, that is one distinguishing feature between us and animals. I don't know whether the dogs talk to each other, that is a different story. But we consider ourselves as species that we can actually communicate in language. The origins of language is very, very, very complicated. Very often there is what they call a theory called onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia is there. They believe that language started as human beings, as a cry, as a grunt, okay? Or let me give you an example. Example like, if you see bee, they're going, and then you can say bass, okay? Okay, if you see a cell phone beep, so if you are writing English, you can say the beeping of the cell phone. You can say it's a word. How did it beep? It's the sound of the beep. Okay. If you do the bomb sounded boom, and of course boom is a word. Okay. This is what they call onomatopoeia. Many believe that it is this type of sounds that we cry and grunt, and then it becomes word, and that is how the language started. Okay, and then there is the group that we call hermeneutics. Hermeneutics is really those who started as those who believe that language to study meaning come from history. So if you want to understand anything, you have to just go to the history of that. If you have a word, you want to understand it, you have to trace it to the history of it, okay? Or you go to the etymology of it, the history. In fact, hermeneutics.
I have muted now, but still I can't hear.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Hello, Nash.
Can you all hear me?
Yeah. Prof, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry, somebody.
Yeah,
okay,
yourself, please.
Okay, now, so hermeneutics was basically tracing meanings of language to its historical background. In fact, hermeneutics, if you, somebody even today in contemporary methodology, you can say, I'm doing hermeneutics. What are you doing? You are basically interpreting text. You are interpreting text. It started as biblical interpretation, mostly started in Germany. The word hermeneutics emanates from the Greek called Hermen. Hermen was the Greek god for interpretation. So hermeneutics, they call it, how do they interpret Bible and historical, that is how it started. So they will trace meaning to the history. Hermeneutics has a lot of link with structuralism because of their trace to history. In fact, so what it is here now, let me center it now. For Saussure or Levi-Strauss, the structuralists, meaning is not derived from this sound or this history. They don't buy that. You can talk about that. Even if it started as a sound, there's no reason for us to believe that even contemporary meaning will start as such. Okay, so now, so they ignore that. For them, language meaning is not from the word history. It's not from its history. It is not from its sound. And again, so now they also added, it is not from the actual stuff that is out there that you see. Can you imagine that? So if you see tree, the word tree has nothing to do with the leafy thing that is outside your building, that green. No, it has nothing to do with it. This is where the complexity start coming in. So let me make this clear. So the structuralist argument, main argument is that meaning doesn't come from the sound. It doesn't come from the self. It is not coming from the actual stuff. If you are talking about this cell phone, the meaning doesn't come from any direct contact that I have with that. But the meaning comes from it comes from a sign that is mediating between me and the phone. I'll explain this and you will get to know what they mean. So let's go here and you'll see. So now let me talk about the sign. This is so in his writing about structuralism, distinguish between what they call langue. Langue is here. Langue, in other words, language and parole. Parole means speech. And then he said that, okay, language has to do with speech, so meanings have to do with speech and language. I'm not going to deal with speech. That is his argument. I'm just going to deal with the langue itself. Okay, so meanings in the langue side emanate from signs. And when we say signs, signs are something like anything that you use to represent something else. That is sign. You can see the meaning here. anything that stands for something, refer to something. So let me give you an example of a sign. All of a sudden, I see, of course, if I do this, it's a sign for peace globally. That is not to say that everywhere, but at least English speaking, you say that is a sign. A sign can be something like even a rose. If a young man sees a young lady and they give the person a rose, the rose is a sign. We understand it to be a sign of love. So these are all signs. A handshake is a sign. If you are going to a party, the drink that you buy to somebody for somebody is a sign, because it's a sign of you are showing some intimacy or affinity or friendship. And the same drink, if you give it to somebody that you are trying to divorce, in the Ghanaian culture, you give the drink, that means, okay, this time I'm trying to divorce you. It's a sign. So you can see how the interpretation will be different. But let's now, the signs are divided into what he called signifiers and the signified. Here I will show what it means by this diagram. So you have sign. You know what the sign is. If you are complicated, just choose the P sign is a sign. The signs are divided into signifiers and signified. Now, the signifier, if I say tree, the word tree that you can write on the paper is a signifier. The word tree, if you write tree on the paper, please, you just write tree on the paper. Write tree on the paper. So the tree becomes a signifier. And then the idea that that tree gives in your mind, the concept that the word tree gives in your mind, it becomes the signified. So signifier is the word, the concept that it invokes in your mind is the signifier. The two will combine to form the sign. Let me put it this way. So the word tree is there. That is the sign. Sorry, the word tree is the signifier. So we are talking about sign. Sign is divided into signifier, the word. Just T-R-E-E is the word. You can see it physically there. You can say right up, okay? Now, the signified is this one, leafy, woody thing sitting on my right. So signifier will refer to this concept. But remember, this is not the tree sitting down there, but the image that it puts in your mind, the concept. If you are having difficulty grasping this, let me turn it around. You are driving and you see the stop sign. So a stop sign sitting down there. The stop sign is a sign, it is the signifier. The stop will give you some idea. The stop is a concept. There's no stop, somebody called stop standing there. There's no stop, somebody called stop. No, the sign is there, but the sign put in your mind some concept. Maybe if you don't stop, what are the ideas that are coming to your mind? Accident, a crash, if somebody passing, all those things. The image that evoke, that sign sitting down there evoke is the signified. So now, so the word tree, this is where you have to master all your cognitive power and understand it. Their main argument is that the relationship between this word tree and this leafy thing standing there is really arbitrary. This TREE has nothing to do with this. We'll tie this to this only by way of conversion. English-speaking people, if they see this, it produces the image of TRE. So the link between the tree, which is the signifier, and the signifier is just arbitrary. Another way to put it, and if you are in doubt, is this. If you are in doubt, let me just put in this idea for you. In those of us who speak Akan, the word tree will be replaced by what word? Please answer me. I want somebody to also give me the translation of tree in Ga, translation of tree in Ewe. Okay, so obviously the Akan, you will say dia.
Yeah.
Okay, a dia or dia. What would the Ewes say?
Ati.
Everest will say Ati.
Ati.
The Ebers will say what?
Ati.
Okay, what about the Ga? Ati, they said it TSO. The Ga? Two. TSO. Yesterday I talked to somebody, two. Okay, if you think tree has a direct special relationship with the leafy thing, how come you call it two and it refers to the same thing? How can somebody call it this and refer to the same thing? In other words, all those words are arbitrary. There is no direct link between tree and the tree. There's no direct link. That is why you call it something else, TSO, and it's referring to it. And somebody in French, they will call it something different and they're referring to it. Somebody in, say, Ethiopian language will call it something different. So the tree has nothing, TREE, has nothing to do with the tree that you see at the back. The link that you think they have is just arbitrary. I hope that point is made. Now, so that is the key thing that you have to get. So meanwhile, we are moving on to gradually to post-structuralism. But let me use this slide here to try to firm out some of the connections, or let me rehearse. First, meaning is not coming from direct link between me and the mouse. There's nothing like that. Okay, I get the meaning of this mouse mostly through the connection through language. And now, so language and culture mediated. So it gets to it by way of what they call sign. The sign is a fusion between the signifier, the word, and the signified. So how do we then get meaning? This is the core. For so, we get meaning of the tree, not because there's a direct link between the tree and the leafy, woody thing standing at the back of your hand, but we get meaning of the tree because the tree, when we say tree, we have some links between tree and it produces the image of a wood, an image of a grass, image of a forest, image of the soil, image of, so it is a system, the aura, the structure around the word that gives us the meaning tree. So it is not a direct thing. So mostly it is the play of difference. So tree becomes meaningful to us because in our mind, it gives some idea about the forest. It gives idea about the leaf. It gives idea about the soil, maybe the nature, or maybe the green thing. So all these things are the ones that give us meaning. But there's no direct meaning between tree and tree. No, there's nothing like that. So meaning is a play of the signs. Meaning, so now, if I say the word daughter, the meaning of daughter is not daughter or my daughter tied to a lady standing there. Daughter become meaningful because you can nest it in a structure, in a network of system of signs. And this system will include wife, father, mother, brother, sibling, this, family. So therefore, daughter will be part of it. It is these non-present signs that will work together for daughter to become meaningful. There is no direct, if it is direct daughter to that, then how come somebody else is calling something is me baba or something to call it? So meaning is it comes to us through the network of the signs. So it is this idea of a network or the structure of the signs around it. That is why we call the word structuralism. So meaning derived from mostly, if anything that you are talking about, look at that particular word and see the network around it and see how it is connected to that network. That is where meaning comes from. Okay, so now that word, that network and the science around it is referred to as synchronic. Synchronic. So now if I want to find the meaning of computer, I will sit down right here, my laptop, and right away talk about the network that is around here will be my mouse. The laptop will be the screen. The network will be the electrical outlet. The electrical will be mostly things that are around. It forms a structure, it forms a system, it forms a network. That is what projects the meaning of the computer or the laptop to me. That's what it means. So it's the play of these different. There is no direct, I don't perceive the computer directly that it is there, and that's it. There is always a mediation through language, through science, through a network. And of course, that is the meaning. So keep the idea of synchronic, meaning derives this single moment. The spatial structure, I'm teaching geography class. So the spatial structure at this very moment is very important. Okay, the network in which this computer forms around it. Okay, it's the play of the different relationships that the computer will have with the mouse, will have the electrical plug, will have with maybe the desk, will have with the screen, will have with anything around it. That structure that gives us meaning. Now, you will see some competition between here and the diachronic, another word coming through. Diachronic is mostly the insight coming through the hermeneutics. Those who believe that meaning comes from history. So the word diachronic means you get meaning mostly through time. It is temporal. In fact, in geography, you can also say, because geographers define geography as time-space, relationship between time and space. So if you take that way, so the diachronic is also become geography. But basically, the point I want to close is that structuralism at this time when the Saussure was talking, because he was doing it in a reaction to hermeneutics, he wasn't stressing the diachronic part. But it is really there. We have some meaning through history. Who can deny that? It is really there. But he is saying that that is not even the most important. The most important is the synchronic. So he was stressing the structure, the noun, and the network within which it falls. So I don't want to say that they did not accept the diachronic. They accepted, but because he's using it as a reaction to hermeneutics, reaction to the historical component, he just wanted to stress the synchronic, the present, the spatial relationship, the network in which the sign falls. Okay, so that is what so get in mind, if you want structuralism, in fact, in core, they believe in the diachronic and synchronic. But the point is, this is so starting out as a reaction to the hermeneutics. He wasn't stressing the diachronic that much. So the diachronic means meaning comes from time, the history of the material of the word, and you trace it back. Okay, the synchronic means no, it's now. Freeze it and see the relationship it has with the network in which it falls, the structure in which it falls. So that is really, if you want, another way of looking at structuralism. Okay, so let's now move on to destructuralism. Okay, we are moving on to destructuralism. Destructuralism, I just want to make sure that I got this point clear. So if you have any word that you want to ascertain its meaning, how we get cognition, it's not through sound, onomatopoeia. It's not through that. It's not through a direct link that I have with the mouse. That is why I understand the meaning. It's not through that. In fact, if you want to even go with this, it may not be that much important through time. Okay, but the most important meaning that we get is how this, if I want to conceptualize this, the network of things around it that have some relevance. Okay, so that meaning is really a network, the structure in which the mouse lies, and the relationship and the play of those differences. That is what's going to give me the meaning. I think I've made this point. This is the core of everything that is going to follow. That is why I keep on repeating myself. And again, perhaps the most important thing is meaning between the word tree and the leafy woody thing at the back of your building is really arbitrary. Okay, it's arbitrary. There is no God-given connection between the word and that. No, it's arbitrary. It's just by convention. So if you want, you go to another country, they will use another word. If it is not arbitrary, how come they don't use the same thing and everywhere? No, it's just arbitrary connection. I've already stressed that. So now let's move on to destructuralism. Let me see my term of 30. That's perfect. I've used 30. Now, post-structuralism. Post-structuralism derived from Jacques Derrida, one of the most controversial scholars you must know. Anybody doing graduate work, whether you like it, one thing about philosophy, obviously, is the fact that it's the most comprehensive of the discipline. In fact, it is only after the 18th and 19th century that you have sociology, geography, archaeology, and all those things coming out. Everything was philosophy. Of course, that is why when you get PhD in any field, you become the doctor of philosophy of that discipline. So I think this is the most comprehensive of the fields, and no matter where you are disciplined, you cannot do without it. You cannot even understand when you read material because it covers everything. One of those very contemporary and well-known theorization comes from Jacques Derrida. Mind you, there are those who think he's just a master of confusion and a very fascinating guy. So let's look at Jacques Derrida. Jacques Derrida, his most famous book is called Of Grammatology. You can see the title. He reads so much and has so much vocabulary and keep on creating new words that we call neologisms. So reading Derrida himself, you will see why it's brutally difficult to get through. You have to go through so many angles to get his text. But basically, he is a very intriguing gentleman. Okay, Jacques Derrida. He was an Algerian-born Jewish. He was Algerian-born Jewish person. Now, they came of age in the 1960s in France, in the 1960s. And his contemporaries, I'm selecting those who also join him in this movement. Young people, young, high-powered philosophers. So you have Michel Foucault. That's the name, Michel Foucault, Gilles Deleuze, Jean Baudrillard, Jean-Francois Lyotard. These are the French people that are, but now the leader in terms of this starting break or this starting self-internal criticism is Jacques Derrida. Now, their influence in terms of philosophical background comes from people like Heidegger, people like Nietzsche, or some will say Nietzsche, but mostly in English you say Nietzsche. Okay, he is one of the most controversial scholars in terms of philosophy. Many believe he is the top nihilist. In other words, he doesn't believe in morality. He doesn't believe moral standards are okay. Morality is just a way of people trying to usurp power. He doesn't, there's nothing really exists for Nietzsche. You can see where it's going. But the most influential part will be the social structuralism. Most of what influenced them, so they combine reading from Nietzsche, from Heidegger, from the social structuralism, this post-structuralism. And they are reacting against structuralism. Let me give it this way. Now, so after the social structuralism, the argument was that therefore we can apply structuralism to study the human sciences. So they, at that point, they said they've gotten something, whereas the positivists are studying their science with scientific method and all those things. The human science, sociology, human art, architecture, and social science, philosophy, they have also got their method, and their method is structuralism. Of course, Althusser used it to study Marxism. Lacan used it to study psychoanalysis. So they were using it to apply to every different fields. Okay, but this post-structuralists said, okay, now we are going to apply structuralist critique against structuralism itself. Okay, so they are going to, so in other words, you are using it to study all this psychoanalysis, all this Marxism, but your sociology is also a structure. Okay, so we are going to really destabilize that also. So we are going to use internal critique against it. So we are going to study what you are studying, we are going to also study that in structural terms. That is how it goes. You are studying something in structural terms, and we are also going to study you, because your psychology now that you are doing is also a structure, and we are also going to study that in structural terms. So it gets complicated. It's an internal structure, a struggle going on there. Now, let me break this down. Derrida talk about meaning, and he first and foremost, let's pick up the idea of diachronic, synchronic. Now we are developing our vocabulary so you know what it means. Diachronic means meaning, or if you have a word, its meaning comes from its history. You trace the historical aspect, you get the meaning. The reader buys this. He, unlike the Cicero who was just iffy about it, the result in that is really, you have to accept that. You can't deny that. So the reader starts with the idea of diachronic. But of course, as a structuralist, he also buys the synchronic. That means meaning is now frozen and the relationship of the word to the network, the structure in which it falls. Okay, so meaning right from post-structuralists, they are fusing diachronic and synchronic. Okay, now using this, he first and foremost developed a concept he called different. This is interesting. And what I will encourage you to do is after the class, Google this concept and try to firm up your understanding. That is the best way. So let me introduce the word properly. Please pay attention here. Now.
Oh, just a second. Will you please put your slides in their display mode so that they can see?
The way I move across, okay, I'll try to do that because I was trying to.
Okay, to move across the slides.
Yeah, can you see? Oh, you can't see it at all.
No, I can see, but I saw a comment in the chat, so that's why I drew your attention. Once you want to be moving.
Yeah, I want to be moving. You see how I was going back and forth. The way the thing is, it will be better. You get what I mean? Because they are so interrelated. And that, yeah, okay. I use this technique to teach all the time. So don't worry. Please tell the person I'll give you the slides anyway. Okay? I'll give you the slides to you. I always give the slide. I'll give you the slide. Don't worry. But you try to understand as I talk. I'll give you the slide. Now, so the word here is different. Look at this carefully. Difference. I'm going to spend some time here because it's important in the reader speaking. Now, in English, we say difference. Difference will be, the A here will be an E. Difference. We all will agree that. In fact, in French, the word French, difference is the same as English different. In fact, in actual French, difference will be different with an E here. E here. So this different with an A is the reader's creation. He created it. And now it has become part of vocabulary. If you Google it, if you go into dictionary, any critical, dictionary of critical theory, any of them will have it, dictionary cultural theory, they will all have it different. So what I'm trying to draw your attention to is that it's just the A that he has put in place of the second E, the middle E here, he have called it the A. Now, so this is his creation, and a word like that you can refer to as a neologism. In other words, neologic. He's a new word created by somebody, neologism. Okay, now. So he is trying to tell us with this is a move that he's making. Meaning is really not that present. Meaning is never present. You have to remember, first and foremost, if you want the meaning, you have to go to history. History is not right here. History is not present. Historical meaning is, if you take it now, and I'm talking about tree, and I have to go back to history and how tree was used, history is not here, it's not present. Okay, and if I have to look at the meaning in the network is endless. I have to refer to tree, I have to refer to the wood, I have to refer to this, I have to refer to that, I have to refer to nature, I have to refer, they are all not there now. So meaning really is both different from what we mean. If I say tree, the tree meaning come from the fact that it is tied to something different. It is tied to the forest. It is tied to the wood. It is tied to nature. It is tied to the green thing. It's tied to the soil. That is the network, the structure, the synchronic. Okay, and it is really not there. And just like the historical one is not there. So meaning is historical, it's not present, and it is also deferred. So these two, where every meaning is not present, the meaning keep on coming. It is really, you use the word polysemic. Polysemic means multiple, endless, inexhaustive. So meaning is really not ending. So use the word deferred. If you look at it carefully, it's a combination of deferred. Meaning is deferred and meaning is different. If you combine the two, he coined the term different. But it is really different placed with an A. So what I'm trying to say is combining our conception of meaning not being present with this word. Differed is different. Okay, meaning is never present. So if you read about the postmodern word, post-structural word, the idea of not present is very important. They will extend it to mean that not objectivity is not there, meaning is not there, reality is not present. Everything is out there, it's in the form of a trace. If it's not present, it's like a trace. It is undecidable. So they are drawing our attention to things that we don't think about. That is why you have to remember. The meaning of the tree is the historical one that is not there, and it's the tied to the forest that is not there. So in fact, in essence, if I say tree and I think I'm meaning, I really don't know what I mean. I don't know because I can't know. But I want you to know that I know what I'm talking about because what? I have to assume that we are all suppressing some of the meanings. And then we come to a realization based on what we are talking now. So the meaning itself is inexhaustive. Basically, it's everywhere and it cannot be pinned. You cannot pin down a meaning. That is the meaning. So every word has an aura around it. It related terms that give it the meaning. So words become the word here is polysemic. Polysemic means sign generate inexhaustible sign. Hence, that is why they are introducing their skepticism. That is why the post-structuralists are skeptics about everything. You want to pin down meaning? You think you know what you're talking about? I can give you a different meaning and it will turn what you are talking about differently and it will complicate things. So they talk about the fact that if I'm presenting something, every presentation that I make is a form of representation. I'm suppressing some part. So presentation becomes I'm representing something. It's not the reality. Presentation is representation. Meaning is mediated. Meaning is non-present. Meaning refers to some trace of substances of things that it is undecided. So right away, the core thing you have to keep in mind that they introduce the idea of undecidability, skepticism, that the idea of you have to pay attention, you have to judge everything, you have to really question everything is coming to play here. You have to question everything. Okay, that is where the post-structure started. And that move, Derrida started by introducing the word different. Meaning is different and meaning is deferred. So you have different. That is not it. He used this same word to bring about so many other dynamics about how we should conceptualize meaning. Now, he talked about Derrida again, talk about the fact. Look at this move also. He introduced, this is another word he introduced. That is why I said he reads so much. He is somebody who read Greek philosophy, the ancient classic and everything. So the words that come from Derrida's mouth and the way he combines words and the way he plays around with words. So they want our postmodernist, post-structure, they deal with what they call wordplay. In fact, you can Google the word wordplay and it's a word now. So they play with words. They play of difference. That's what they do, okay? It looks that they are playing, but in fact, they are helping us as intellectuals. They are bringing to bear the idea of critical thinking. Everything somebody thinks they have the meaning pinned down, please question it. They think they have absolute truth and that's it. No, it doesn't exist as such. It's not as simple because the meaning of the word they are using is network in the polysemic meanings that they are not there, and you have to bring a different context, and I can turn it around to the history and the synchronic, and it gets complicated. So nobody should think as though they know things and they have proof, words like proof, and we have objective. No, there's nothing like that. That is what I like about these people. It forces you to be a critical thinker, even though it looks like they are pro. One of the different, another word that he coined is phonocentrism. Let's take a closer look. Phonocentrism. Phono means come from the word sound. Phono, you can Google it. Phono is a Greek word sound. Phonocentrism is just to say that over the years, philosophers, because they want to hide things, because they don't want us to know that they are suppressing meaning, they tend to privilege speech over writing. In other words, they like talking so much. They don't want to write much. When you give them speech and writing, they will prefer speech. That is what because speech is sound. That is why he coined the word phonocentrism. So sound, we want to talk. And there's some reason for that. You have to remember thought. As soon as you think it, first of all, it comes to your mouth. It becomes speech. And then if you want, so it comes from thought to speech. Before, if you want, you can put it down. So speech is closer to thought. It's closer to our existence, really. It's our breath. It's closer to us. So there's some reason to that. But no, not to Derrida. Derrida that think they are trying to hide something. They have something to hide. That is why they are doing that. Because he thinks that, let's use his concept of difference. Now, the difference. Difference, if you use English, it's spelled like this, difference. French is spelled like this, difference, the same word. Now, if you pronounce it in French, this is, anybody who speaks French will say different, okay? Now, if you change it and you put the A in the middle here, believe it or not, the sound of this and the sound of this in French, those who speak French, is the same thing, okay? Different, if you put an A, different, if you put an E. So Derrida got them there. He's saying that this is what I mean, okay? It is only in writing. If you don't write it, you wouldn't see the difference. That is the power of writing. Writing is capable of exposing what you want to hide. The sound is the same, but if you put it there, you have no way you will see the difference. That is another play of the word different. Okay, and now he's trying to say that philosophers have always concentrated on speech. They don't want to write. Okay, so now he's trying to talk about the difference between speech and writing. You have to remember, if you do philosophy, for somebody like Socrates, for instance, Socrates never wrote anything. Socrates really thought that Socrates thought that writing is not a good thing because you cannot engage. If you are writing, you're writing down somebody, you will not be there. But Socratic dialogue, you have to remember, if you are going to have a dialogue, the person has to be there. It has to be give and take. I say this, you say this. What is justice? And you say justice is this, and then we talk. That is the Socratic dialogue. So Socrates, for one, privileged a speech over writing. So he will be phonocentric. So he will use, the reader will use all these ideas to say how we are suppressing meaning. But he is trying to say that we use speech more because you want to hide something. Okay, you really want to hide something. Let me also talk about writing here. Postmodern thinkers using this idea talk about the death of the author. The death of the author. Every author, every word, once it is published, they consider the author dead. That is to say that everything is open to interpretation. You have to remember how they are coming for the idea of skepticism, interpretation, objective truth doesn't exist. So they believe that everything, as soon as you write it, the author is dead. And there's a meaning, there's a reason for it. For instance, if you write a paper, let's say, of course, I've written books. By the time I die in 100 years, the book will be there. Okay, I don't have to be there. So they see the written text as something like a machine. I don't have to be there for you to use it. Okay, so everything, and when you are reading my book, I don't have to stand beside you for me to interpret it. No, it is up to you to interpret it. So any text, when you are reading it, consider the author dead. So they talk about the death of an author. There has one of them, in fact, Roland Barthes. That is his own theory, the death of an author. It's also derived from Derrida. So the whole idea is that we have to consider the author dead and then open ways to interpretation based on what we are trying to say. So don't say that the author wanted to say. So for postmodern thinkers, based on this, they don't, in fact, Derrida once said that we don't even want to call them authors. Because if you call them authors, then you are giving them what? Authority. That is where the author comes in. You are giving them authority. But now they are not there. We are the one interpreting it, and we have to deconstruct the word. So we don't want to even call you author. You will call you a scripter. You just script something. You don't want to give you the authority to call you author. We don't care about what you are and what you can be there, but we are taking the words and going with that. These are some of the thinking that, so in all you are trying to say, they bring extreme skepticism, the idea of interpretation. If it is open to interpretation, then the idea of objective truth, pinned down truth is not, it's difficult to ascertain. You can't get that because everything is now open to so much interpretation. The word is not there, the meaning is not there, it is the trace, it is the undecidable, even the author is not important. You can just imagine the level of skepticism that they are introducing into the academy. Okay, so that is the point to put across here. Now, perhaps his main introduction, what people know the reader by, is the word deconstruction. And if you look at the way I present the slide, you will see at times I'll put some sort of bracket here and there. These are all postmodern, post-structural way of writing. It's what we call word plays. I will show you examples. Okay, so words speak and they play around. So now, for instance, if I want to be far more provocative, far more political, far more controversial, I'll add the ism. Because if I say race doesn't mean much controversy, but if I say racism, that means I'm taking race and politicizing it. I can say sex. I mean, of course, it's just biological. It doesn't make controversy. But if I say, you know, this is very sexy, sexism, then I'm politicizing it. Okay, if I say deconstruction, you may take it lightly, but if I say deconstructionism, then I'm politicizing it. So I'm provoking you to say that I can be political, I can provoke. So this is what postmodern are introducing, what they call word plays. So at times, I'll show you so many different fascinating examples of this. So they'll use this so to show that, okay, you can take the construction alone or you can add it together. It depends on where you want to go. It's up to you. You interpret it any way you want to go and do it what you want to do. Okay, now, they put across this idea. This is Derrida speaking again. The idea of logocentrism. I'm fine. I'm introducing so many different words today, but it goes with this territory. Put it down when you go, you Google logocentrism. The whole idea of Derrida's work, what he is best known for is what is called deconstruction. But let me put it this way. Derrida himself refused to define deconstruction. You can Google this, you call a letter to a Japanese friend, Derrida, a letter to a Japanese friend. This one he sent to a Japanese friend of his in 1983, a letter to a Japanese friend. You can Google it. And there he was asking the Japanese friend whether he can translate deconstruction into Japanese language. And in that piece, it's about 6 pages. I will encourage you. In fact, that is one piece I remember in graduate school. That is what we were reading, because that is something you can actually understand the reader of all those days if you are starting. Otherwise, if you pick up grammatology and some of his writing, your head will spin. But this one you can really go through. So I encourage you to pick that. A letter to a Japanese friend. You Google and you pick it up. Okay, now, he was asking the friend to see if he can translate it. But if you read the letter, he himself is refusing to define deconstruction. Why? Because he's afraid that his definition will be subject to another round of deconstruction by somebody. So obviously, he doesn't want to go there. I don't want to put you a precise definition for somebody else to come and deconstruct it, because that is my business and I have to be crafty. So you can never pin the reader down. And if you can't pin the guy down, how does he write? His writing gets so complicated. Okay, so how can you write when you write and you think that everything you write is a lie? The meaning is not there. So how do you even write? So that is the complexity of the reader. Now, he introduced this word logocentrism. He talks about logocentrism. It means that all over the years, philosophy, history, all the academy, everything we study, we mean to pin down the meaning of words. In other words, the philosophy of the person. We think that meaning, cognition, and the word they have meaning, that is person. Okay, and that is what his whole enterprise is going to show us, that meaning, in fact, is non-person. It is just a trace. It is undecidable. It is so polysemic, so many, so you can't pin it down. So he's trying to say that deconstruction is an effort to basically to tear apart logocentric world. Logocentrism is the idea that philosophy or our academy, what we study, we want to pin down meaning, that meaning a person. So deconstruction is an exercise to basically to subvert that, to show that meaning is not present. In other words, that is what he is trying to do. So he is basically deconstructing logocentric words or logocentric texts. I hope you get it. So he talked about first, he established the principle so that he knows, people know where he's going. Mostly logocentric words have some hidden foundations. What we have been doing all in academy, we have some hidden foundation, whether we know it or not. Mostly it comes in what you call binary opposite. This is one of the most important words you will come across today, binary opposite. In other words, we study things mostly through binary opposition. Binary opposition is the idea of us categorizing and thinking in doubles, left, right. What is male versus female? Anytime you want to systematize thinking in the academy, in logocentric thinking, you have to go by binary opposite. And that is how we are. That is how we're human beings. But he is going to show us that we are missing something. Keep it that way. We are missing something. Now, think about it. You have male, female. You have right, wrong, negative, positive. We develop, non-develop. Don't you think there's something going on? And that is what is drawing our attention. And this is what you call binary opposition. So it is a system by which we think and organize and become systematic. That is our thinking, even though we are not aware of it, but that is how it is. So this is binary opposition. So he is going to show us how binary opposition has something to hide. That is the whole idea of deconstruction. Now, so what he is saying that we think in binary opposite, and even though you will say male, female, left, right, develop, underdevelop, as if we are talking in pairs, really it is hierarchical, but we want to hide the hierarchy and the power hierarchy in it. So we don't say much about that. Male, female, don't you think the male is on top and female is below, and it's not male, female this way? Even though they are categorizing, oh, you are male, go here, you are female, go here. But in fact, maybe what they should have done is say you are male, go on top, and you are female, go down. They wouldn't say that because they want to hide the hierarchy in the system. Okay, you are black. Okay, black, how many blacks are you here? Four blacks, we go here. How many white? White, go here. Don't you think it has to be, okay, white, go up, and blacks, go down? But they don't talk outside because what? They are trying to hide something. Binary opposites have hierarchies embedded and it is hidden, and they don't want you to see that. So normally binary opposites have a privileged term. Let's say male, female. The male is privileged, but they are hiding that. They have a subordinate term, the female is subordinate, and they are hiding that too. So it is up to you as a deconstructionist to destabilize this hierarchy that is embedded in logocentric text. That is the whole idea of Derrida. Okay, so Derrida's writing, generally, he writes negatively. He is not going to propose any theory on his own. No, he doesn't do that. He just writes reactive to other people. So he would take the word of Plato and destroy it. He take the word of Freud and deconstruct it. Take all Socrates and do this. So mostly that is what he does. He writes only reactively. He will take your word, mostly some of the literature, some of the structuralist writing, people like Heidegger, Foucault, everybody, he will deconstruct you, okay? So he is not putting forward a new theory, but he is just writing in reaction to that. And what he does is to deconstruct the logocentrism that is built, goes to. And he shows us how to do it. That's where we are going to show you. Now, so I've shown you about binary opposite. So yes, no, white, black, male, female, master, slave, develop under their being, appearance, reality. perception, life, death. So that is how we think, even though you have not thought about it, but he's exposing this and the embedded hierarchy in it. So let me give you the principles of deconstruction as put forward by Derrida in what has been called the post-structuralism. Remember, they are all working within structuralism, a language. And of course, at this stage, you say it's post-structuralism. And when it blew out into the hands of Foucault, it became post-modernism. And it became global phenomenon. Okay, now, so first and foremost, they don't buy grand theories. If you have big theory, they don't buy that. Okay, they don't buy grand theories. Keep this in mind as a high theoretician. You say grand theory, something like say Marxism. If you think you have a theory that should apply to every situation, it's a grand theory. And deconstructionists or postmodernists, they don't like that. They don't buy that. That is their reaction to all these theories, Heidegger, Nietzsche. They don't buy grand theories. Another word for grand theory is what you call grand narrative. You can call it grand discourse, meta narrative, meta discourse, totalizing discourse. It's the same thing, grand theory. So if you are reading and hear totalizing discourse, that means that you say the person is referring to some grand theory, a meta narrative, a totalizing narrative, or grand narrative. They combine these words, but all it is a big theory, that's all. Okay. Second, they are very skeptical of binary opposition. I've already talked at length about them. Okay. They believe that Western thought, Western philosophy is based on binary opposite, and it is hierarchical, which is hidden, and they are there to destabilize that. Let's move on. Now, they are trying to make an attempt to basically take an X-ray of a text. That is what Derrida talks about in a book called Of Grammatology. I have it right behind here on my text, my text of grammatology. Okay, so the whole idea is that you have to take an X-ray. If you are taking an X-ray, you go into the internal part and see the bones that are there. Okay, you are taking the, so they will say read the text, not the text that is on the surface. Read the text and read the subtext. Read what they are telling you and read what they are not even telling you. You have to read between the lines. That is the whole idea. They also have this idea of reading between the lines. They try to put words in erasure. To put a word in erasure, this is the word here. Put word in erasure. So I've done example here. In fact, I have a paper that just came out. If you about home sweet home, I use this technique there. The title is somewhere in the middle. I use unique difference, reality, unique. And then I cancel the unique. But I cancel it and let it appear. So that is to say that I wanted to use unique, but I didn't like it that much, and why. And then I discussed why I didn't like unique. Then instead of using unique realities, I say different realities of Black Africans. And I put all this in the paper that was published. Of course, I had a lot of fight with editors, the editorial board. Eventually, they have to go to Derrida work to confirm what I was saying. Now, okay, so unique and different realities. So I cancel the unique and I say, no, maybe unique is not that good, but that means I put it under erasure. So they do all those techniques. And one of their main techniques, they use things like dialectics. If I want to go into more details of dialectics, it will take some time. If you want, you can call me another time. I will talk about dialectics. Now, the next, so let's move into the critique of Derrida. This is somebody who is saying words are not there and all those. So you can just imagine the criticism. And I'm just going to help you basically talk about some of the criticism, and then you move on to postmodernism. I want to leave some time behind for questions. Now, many believe that he's just a master of confusion. He's just trying to obfuscate the situation because he has nothing to say. So in the realm of philosophy, especially, you can just say people in, say, Oxford, Cambridge, and all those people, the analytical philosophers who are doing something with logic, formal logic, they want words to mean something precise and all those symbolic logic. If you say sentence, they have to symbolize and make sure they can. No, they will not buy any of this, really. So this is coming from continentals, the French, okay? And they have a battle with the analytical philosophers, the British and the Americans in particular. Okay, sorry, the British in particular. So in 1992, Cambridge University, just like in University of Ghana, York University, everywhere you are, GTU, CG, CTU, everywhere you are coming from, normally what we do, you give something like an honorary award degree. Cambridge made a mistake of trying to give honorary degree to Derrida in 1992. It blew up in the whole campus. It's basically split the campus into two. The dons that are voting, they won't agree. Some say he's not a true philosopher. At best, he's a literary critic because he deals with language and criticism. Or some say he's just a master of confusion. He has not written anything original. Even when he writes, you can't even understand somebody who is writing and he thinks writing is a lie. So how is he writing? It became a big thing on campus, 1992. Eventually, they voted and Derrida, they won. The vote was 336 to 206 in favor of Derrida. In other words, again, the professors that voted, and so they gave him the honorary degree. Now, how can you write when you think writing is lying? He himself started Marx a PhD thesis, and he has to abandon it. Why? Because he realized that he is going to destabilize, deconstruct logocentrism, and the whole academy is based on this. And you are going to destabilize it. The profs who are going to mark it are built on that. So how is it going to be possible? So he eventually had to abandon it. Now, being afraid of being deconstructed, I've already talked about that. In a letter to the Japanese friend, he talked about how he doesn't even want to define deconstruction. Why? Because somebody else is going to deconstruct. He doesn't want to expose himself to deconstruction. At the end of this, this is Derrida's conclusion in all his work. He came to the realization that logocentrism, the idea of binary opposite, an effort to pin down meaning as if it is present. We human beings, the way we are, we really cannot do away with that. Can you imagine? After all this guy admit that logocentrism is here to stay. So the question becomes, what has he accomplished? What is all this about? Deference, polysemic, phonocentrism, and this and that, deconstruct this, and now you are telling us that we cannot do away with logocentrism. We cannot do away with the binary opposite. I mean, if we do away with it, we cannot even think straight. So what have you accomplished? What are you trying to tell us? Now, what it is that Derrida actually has done us a lot of service. He's trying to tell us to loosen up, to be critical, to be able to see the limits of what we have. That is his accomplishment. So even though we cannot do away with the binary opposition, when we are using it, we have to be mindful of the fact that it has weakness. That is the main point. Let me give you some good example of the weaknesses of binary opposite. Now, if you deal with, now there is a virus going around, the coronavirus. Binary opposite talk about life and death. You can Google virus. Virus, you can't even know what, the definition of a virus is not animate and it is not inanimate. It is not life and it is not death. Virus, you can Google it. It is not something that is living and it's not something that is not living. So where do you put it? It is only through Derrida's idea of non-different, the idea of subverting binary opposite, that we can think as such. Okay? In other words, every time you set things in direct opposition, keep in mind that there is something there for you that you are missing. And what Derrida stressed is that anytime you set things in this opposition, keep in mind that the meaning of the privileged term male as against the subordinate term female, the meaning of male, you cannot even establish the concept of malehood or masculinity unless you put it in juxtaposition with the concept of female. Think about it. How can you understand male if there's no female? That is Derrida's contribution. If you think about develop, underdeveloped, he will tell you that the developed world is inside the underdeveloped world, just as the underdeveloped world is inside the developed world, you cannot understand developed world when there's no underdeveloped world. Okay, so now if you talk about developed world, I'm sitting down here, I'm coming from a third world or developed, underdeveloped, I'm right here, I'm part of it. You go to Ghana, you find Americans there, they are part of it. You come here, not only me, human being here, you can have conditions that are as poor as you can find in any third world country. Just like you can have rich conditions in, say, Accra, that you can find right here. So they are interconnected. They are not separate. They are not opposite. The way people want us to believe. Always think about that. You cannot have a slave when there is no master. If there's no master, where is the slave? Okay, and if there's a slave, then they get master. So the meanings are not opposite, they inform each other. Without this, you cannot know that. So don't tell me they are opposite. That is Derrida's basic contribution. And I think that is very powerful. So normally when you are doing research and you say you are giving people yes or no, be mindful. There could be a possible answer of, I don't know. There could be a possible answer, neither this or that, or both. So think about this. That is where the play of difference comes in. I've talked about the example of virus. Android, you have Android phone. What do you mean Android means? Android is a robot that is part machine and part human. Yeah, that's the thinking in Android. If you have something like you have a weed, grass is a weed. It depends on where the grass is. If you are doing a park, a soccer park, and there's a grass there, the grass is not a weed. Okay, it depends on the context. So don't tell me what is a weed and what is not weed. If it is the grass on the park, it's not a weed. But if you have a garden of tomatoes and the grass come there, then all of a sudden it becomes a weed. So it is all matter of context and interpretation and the network and the structure in which it falls. Okay, so a human being, many people talk about male and female. Go into biology, we have hermaphrodites, both who have both male and female bodies. In terms, yeah, that is just nature. Okay, we have hermaphrodite. So there are a whole bunch of examples that Derrida will use to bear for us to think things through and just be suspicious of binary opposition. I think I made a point. Let's move on to the last segment that will have to do with postmodernism. And this, it gets even very interesting. Postmodernism. Let me just pick up the idea of postmodernism. Okay, postmodernism. Now you're having to introduce the word of Foucault. Foucault is coming into the mix. Mostly what you have in terms of postmodernism, let me tease out the concept properly. And now the idea of postmodernism, if you want to get into it, you have to distinguish between modernism and postmodernism, because postmodernism quickly is, there are two main definitions of the preface post. Okay, the preface post. I just normally don't want to exceed my time, so let me just see. I got about 30 minutes. That would be fine. Okay, I'm assuming you gave me 2 hours. Okay, we agreed on that. I have 1 hour 22 now, so I have a lot of time to finish it. Post here is used, the post here is used first as a historical post or in temporal times or in time. Okay, in other words, post as in after this, after modernism. That's one meaning of the post. Another meaning of the post is post as a critique. So you have postmodernism as a historical time. In other words, modernism is there and postmodernism is some after the modern time is post. And then they use it also, the post, as a critique of what modernism did. Okay, take the modern era and all the wars. You have to remember, modernism gave us enlightenment, the science of objectivity, the scientific method, Fordism, the idea of order, foundational knowledge, meta-narrative, reality. All these things are modern tenets. Okay, that the postmodern people, Derrida and his people, are now talking about, if you talk about enlightenment, they talk about dialectics of enlightenment. Dialectics of enlightenment is trying to tell you that enlightenment, if you think it was that good, it wasn't really that good at all. It wasn't good. It was during the Enlightenment when they were doing this enlightened science and inventions and all, it was around that same time that there was slavery, that there was colonialism, that there was all these wars. So the enlightened, so they criticized it as such in a book, Dialectics of Enlightenment by Adorno and Horkheimer. That is where they talk about. If you talk about objectivity, modern science, scientific method, they say constructionism, relativism, meaning is not there, hermeneutic, deconstructed. So they are really reacting to the modern era, modernism. Really, that is what you have to keep in mind. In fact, modernity, enlightenment, scientific method need systems, structure, order. Postmodernism, in actual fact, believe in disorder. Can you believe that? They believe in disorder. They believe in diversity. They believe in different fragmentation. So they are the one that is saying knowledge is fragmented, knowledge is diverse, knowledge is different. If you know about this, this is very important for my colleagues or people who are joining from, of course, this is mainly Ghana. If you look at the Western world, it is because of the postmodern influence. That is why the idea of diversity and difference and fragmentation of knowledge is very well accepted, unlike places like Ghana. If it's a presentation like Ghana, if you are making it in Ghana, you are not careful, you can talk about, say, postmodern movement in terms of gay rights. They don't want to hear that, many people. So what I'm trying to say is that the postmodern influence has made the Western society more open and acceptance of diversity, okay, differences. That is the core. Whereas in places where the influence is not there, they are still not that open to diversity. I know about stories in Ghana now, people cannot even use dreadlocks to go to school. And you cannot have that here because of the postmodern influence. Or gay people, they don't want to talk about it and people will even chastise you for even mentioning it. Believe me, now if you, from this lecture, I'm not preaching anything. All I'm trying to let you know is why it is so open here. That is what I'm trying to say. And why many are struggling to accept these things there. Because this type of thinking, theorization has not penetrated Africa much. That is all I'm trying to say. But here, it has burned into the feminist movement, the gay movement, the disability movement. That is what I mean by the play of differences. There is no foundation. There's no organizing theme. There's no structure that we have to all accept. Everything, diversity, differences, fragmentation is the core in the Western academy and is the core analytic and continental. That is the core. And I will venture to say the African context is slightly behind in that type of thinking. Okay, and it has to do with a lot of cultural things, but I just want you to understand why, if you are there and here in Canada, you talk about he and she and all those things, and you guys are laughing and all those, there is a reason for that, and that is where the society has moved to, and we accept that. If this is a Zoom that we are doing at York, my colleagues, before, if I put my name Joseph Mensah, very often they will put he, she under it. In other words, I have to specify whether I want to be referred to as a he or she. And everybody now is doing that because the fact I'm Joseph Mensah doesn't make me he or she. I mean, these are some of the thinking that are going in. I'm not trying to preach anything, please get me right, but I just want you to understand why the West thinking is going to that level. That is all, okay? So that you can also, as an intellectual, maybe you can get some idea. I don't say buy this or buy into this, but at least you can understand where things are going, okay? Now, because of this influence, the post-fix, critique part, we have postmodernism. What I'm trying to show is that it is now all over the place. We have postmodernism, post-socialism, post-urban, post-colonial studies, post-racial studies, post-critical, post-feminist, post-development, post-Fordism, post-industrial. These are all criticisms that are basically attacking where they are coming from. Post-Fordist will show you Fordism was tied to modernity. And now we are in postmodern, so you have to move on to post-Fordist move. And I will stress this because this is also important for those who are dealing with things like I know people coming from business, say people joining us from, say, Ghana Communication Technology University and some other places like, say, Valley View or something like that. Now, there you guys are interested in business. You have to keep this in mind. Now, modernity gave us Fordism. In other words, the assembly line production. In the modern era, what was common was Fordism. That's what it is. So modernity. Once we move into the postmodern era, the assembly line production system changed, and the way the economy also worked changed. In fact, this has changed the Western economy. Postmodern influence has influenced the economy. And in that context, we can refer to it as post-Fordism. In other words, changing from Fordist mode to, okay, so now, for instance, under the modern era, it was mass production. Now they don't do that anymore. It is small batch production, homogeneous goods. Now it is customized goods. If I want, I can have my jeans with my name attached to it because we buy into differences, diversity. So if you produce millions and they are all the same, no, now we don't do that. We customize. If you need it, you order, you do what you want and they give it to you. So that is the changes that are coming. They are all influenced through postmodernity. Okay, resource driven, no, demand driven this time. You go to workplace those days, you are specialized, you do work the same way. This time, no, you do multiple tasks. If you are the secretary, you have to know how to balance the book, you have to know how to call meetings, you have to know how to do this, you have to, so things are changing because of the postmodern influence. So if you have this slide, you can go through some more. I put it in because of the business people joining. Now, postmodernism started mostly as a reaction to art and architecture. They believe that the modern architecture in particular was too organized, so orderly because of the scientific method enlightenment that was pushing architecture at that time. So mostly if it is a building, it's a straight line, everything's calculated and it's all straight. And yeah, so that is what it is. But the postmodern one, what do you mean? Diverse, different, complexity, interpretation, and all those things. So let me just start a very interesting thing here. This is a, look at this building. This is a pretty igloo. It's a building in St. Louis. This is an example of the modern architecture. You can see it all straight, everything calculated, angles, everything perfect. Now, it was very common in the West, Europe and everywhere, until the postmodern influence came. Everything. If it's a building, it's a complex, thousands of buildings, they are all shaped the same way, straight for everything. But in the 70s, as the postmodern influence was getting closer, it was around the same time that this particular complex was imploded. In other words, destroyed. You know, they intentionally, the government pulled it down. It was by that time getting to be dilapidated, so they destroyed it. Anyway, it's not like because of postmodern, so let's put it down. No, but at that point, so the postmodern scholars take this implosion as the starting point of postmodernism. In fact, David Harvey, in a book, Condition of Postmodernity, in fact, he talks about that. In that case, what's the book? That's the book here. Let me bring some books here to entice people. This is a very good book for geography, Conditions of Postmodernity. Anyway, David Harvey, if you have never heard about David Harvey, Conditions of Postmodernity, one of every geographer should know Harvey. Anyway, okay, yeah, David Harvey in this book actually pinned down, he talk about how Charles Junk, you can see the name, actually dated the starting point of postmodernism to be 15 July 1972, 3:32 p.m. Why? Because that is the day and the time that this particular building in St. Louis was pulled down. That is very, very intriguing. That is the destroyed. But now look at the postmodern architecture, for instance. This is the building that was destroyed. You see the architecture? No straight line, no anything organized in that. Look at that. Look at, let me just pull this here for you guys to, okay, let me just, I just want you to see it properly. Let me just see here. I'm just trying to move this here. Yeah, look at the building. This is, and you can find this in Europe, whereby the old building, they will come and attach something new to it, and they change that around all shapes that you cannot even, can you imagine a building like this? Okay, so these are what you mean by postmodern architecture. moving away from the straight line, something or that organized, adding the old to the new to the old, and mixing things up. That is the postmodern architecture. That is how it started. Now, in the hands of people like Foucault. So now let me best speak. The key people are Foucault, Michel Foucault. He talks about power and knowledge. Derrida, of course, talk about the deconstruction. You have Jacques Baudrillard, talk about simulation, and Lyotard, incredulity of meta narrative. That is simply to say that you don't buy into meta narratives anymore. Okay, Jean-Francois Lyotard, that is his book, The Postmodern Condition. That is his book. This is one, in fact, many take this as one of the starting point of postmodern thought. The postmodern condition, and David Harvey came back with the conditions of postmodernity. It's the same words turning around. And by the way, this is of grammatology, of Derrida's of grammatology. In fact, there is a book, Postmodern Geography by Soja. There are a whole bunch of works like that around. But it's good to teach in your own office because the books are just handy around. Now, so let's move on. I'm just going to introduce you to Foucault, okay? All you have to keep in mind is this. The central argument of postmodern thought. Let me just put them down for you so that the rest becomes as enjoying what is there. The central argument of postmodern thought are this, and it derived from post-structuralism, obviously. The whole idea, keep it this way. Postmodernism is tied to the work of Michel Foucault. This is the gentleman, Michel Foucault. Michel Foucault. He is the one we tie postmodernism to. So some will say he is the high priest of postmodernism. When it comes to post-structuralism, we tie it to Derrida, Jacques Derrida, okay? But the point is they are all the same. Post-structuralism started when it blew up, became more political, more global. We call it postmodernism. Okay, that's what we have. The central tenet, the central principles are these, and you can see how it is deriving from post-structuralism. Knowledge and reality knowledge or reality is subjective. I mean, of course, it's because it's not there, it's not present, it's fragmentary, it is plural. If you find a word, if you have any, don't accept the fact that the meaning is there. There is no foundational knowledge. That is another principle. It's not there. They believe in disorder. They believe in diversity. They believe in otherness. These words you have to keep in mind. Otherness is another way, the idea of the other. Normally the other is somebody, the subaltern. Normally the other is somebody where, for instance, if you are in Ghana, you have Ghanaians othering Nigerians. It's a word, it's a postmodern word. Othering them in meaning that the Ghanaians are in, the Nigerians are the other people, they are the subordinate, they are the people who don't belong. If you don't belong into the core majority, then you are other. If you go to Nigeria, the Nigerians will other Ghanaians. And in part of this othering, in fact, there is a whole write-up about othering. The idea of this othering is whereby you assume the good qualities, and then the bad qualities that you have, you take it and project it or target to the other. So therefore, if you are in Ghana, you assume the good qualities. Okay, you are the Christian, you are this, you are the one, and then anybody who steals something, oh, the Nigerians are thieves, the Nigerians are the armed robbers, everything, but the Ghanaians are also doing it. But you, as the majority population, you have the power to tag the other, project. Psychology, they call it projection. You project your own negative attribute to the person that you are othering. So therefore, you paint yourself in positive light. If you are in an advanced society like here, a minority like a black person, you will become the other. The white person will do the same thing, but they tag you with their negative aspect and target on you, project it on you. They have the power to other you. So these are some of the thinking that is coming through. Intellectual relativism. They mistrust grand narrative. They believe in deconstruction. They engage in workplace. Really, that is what you have to know about postmodernism. Okay, so the rest, I'm just going to talk about individuals and their contribution here and there. Let me take Foucault very quickly. Foucault's main contribution is for us to recognize the relationship between power and knowledge. One of his books, Power, Knowledge, right here, Power, Knowledge. So if you see the power is written in bold, it's all, keep in mind, it's all postmodern play. Okay, that's what postmodern wordplay. Why is the power so much? Power is the equal to knowledge because power / knowledge, they are interchangeable. But for Foucault, the power is more important. You see, that is why it is obviously bolded. So when you see these things and people writing in some other haphazard ways and some other weird way, pay attention. That is what postmodernism is about. They do what you call wordplay. It's part of the academy now. Okay, so what he's trying to say is, if you are talking about power, you can replace it with knowledge. If you are talking about knowledge, you have to replace it with power. But at the end of the day, power is very, very important. Let me give you an example. I was walking through Lagos once. It wasn't long ago. I spent a whole year in Ghana. And then I saw on the park between, I think where Saba War and the guest house, the big park that is there, there was a big sign. At that time, they said, knowledge is power. That there was a sign there. Okay. Foucault will say power is knowledge. It's the same thing. Knowledge is power means that if you have knowledge, you become powerful. But what Foucault wants us to know is that if you have power, you decide what becomes knowledge. That is the point. So power is knowledge. So therefore, the same thing that you will say as a student, when I say it, it becomes the ruling argument. Why? Because I have more power as a pro. So that is why when you get some point, the advanced societies are able to determine things, and it looks like they are producing this, and they are producing that, they are making that, they are creating. It's not like that. It just so happens that they have the power. So even if you produce it, for the most part, most of the production that are going on, some are done by so-called third world people who are graduate students who are here. But of course, the power, because the advanced society have the power, they usurp it. So whatever they say goes. Okay. What the so-called global staff say, it doesn't go anywhere. So what becomes knowledge is knowledge because people who have power made it so. It's not because it is knowledge by itself. So knowledge creation is always embedded in power dynamics. That is the point. And as a student, I think that is good to know. Now, Foucault's work, there are so many of them. If I go into my library here, I can pick out, these are all Foucault. You can see Foucault here, Michael Foucault. This is what? Select security, population, and territory. Foucault, the archaeology of knowledge. Foucault. That is Foucault, discipline and power. Foucault. There are so many Foucault, the order of things. Foucault. Foucault. I can stretch so many Foucault's work. You can just, all I'm trying to let you know is the extent to which this guy has influenced the academy. So if this is your new first time of encountering Foucault, please just Google and start reading. Very powerful insight into how society works these days. This is Foucault, the reader. This is Foucault. I think this is, I've shown already the power and knowledge, but I mean, this is also about power. Anyway, Cambridge about power, Foucault. And of course, you can see here too, power, right there, power. And so Foucault's work is just, it will fill a whole library. It is so, and that shows how powerful he is. Now, at the core of it is this idea of power and knowledge. His approach to study is what he called archaeology and genealogy. That is to say that it is historical work, but he goes deeper. Archaeology, it's not really an archaeology, but he says he's going to excavate the text. Okay, you dig deeper to the text and see what is there and what is not there, go deeper into the history. And so his work is historical, archaeological, genealogical, so deep in the history, and then he will bring out some things. Mostly he talks about, for instance, he talks about the idea, I've already talked about power and knowledge in knowledge production. He will go deeper and talk about how the penal system, he has this idea that human beings, those days when he was writing, he said man was created in the 16th century. That is to say that it was during the 16th century that the fields like psychology, penology is basically the study of the criminal justice system, punishment and discipline and prisons and all those things. Penology, that's the word. The penology, psychology, and all sociology and all those things, they started identify who is a human being or who is a man, and then they will say, okay, these are the good qualities, and then they study them, and who is a good man, who is a bad man, who, if it's sexuality, which sexuality is accepted, which is not accepted, and which, if you don't do this, we put you in jail and all. So that study started coming in the 16th century. So he said man was created in the 16th century, where we actually identify what is the normal man or what is the normal human being and what is not normal. So we created a situation where we were able to separate out and put some in asylums. So he wrote a lot about asylum. Those we think are mad, we put them here. Those are not normal, we put them there. So we were able to identify what is normal. If it is sexuality, what sexuality is normal and what sexuality is not normal, we exercise them. If it is prisons, those who we define what is legal and what, all he's trying to let you know that most of these definitions are social construction. It's not natural. Society created them based on power. Okay, so it's those who have power who will then start deciding what is legal and what. Let me give you a good example. Over the years in Canada, to smoke marijuana, of course, was a crime. You know how many people have been put in jail for that, especially blacks and minorities, jail for holding all those things. Now it is no longer a crime. What happened? It's the same marijuana. Nothing changed about the marijuana, but the power dynamics change. And the society, that is social. So legality, what is legal is different from what is moral. What is legal is really embedded in power. In fact, Nietzsche and all those people say even morality is embedded in power anyway. Okay, so that is what Foucault wants to bring out. So it is not like you are criminal, so it may be natural you are criminal. No, it has a lot to do with social construction, power dynamic. So it was that time, 16th century coming, and he is trying to expose that. So he read. So for instance, one of his exposition talk about the concept of panopticon. I want to introduce you. You guys are geographers, whereby you use spatial arrangement to imprison people. Panopticon. The word derived from writings of Jeremy Bentham. Jeremy Bentham in philosophy is a utilitarian philosopher. We know about him, but Foucault borrowed this concept of panopticon. The spatial arrangement, you arrange space in such a way that you can control prisoners. And of course, Foucault is trying to tell us how they work it so that we know. Panopticon, example is this, you can Google it. Example is a situation where you put prisoners in such a way that you see how in a circular building, but you put the warder, the person who is looking after them, in the middle. Okay, so the prisoner's quarters, everything is made like a glass. So if the prisoner is inside his cell, because it's made out of glass, the glass is said that he will see the warder who is in the middle. Okay, but the warder building is made in such a way that he can see inside, the prisoner cannot see him. So even when he is in the middle or he is not there, the prisoner will not know. So by surveillance and discipline, he's showing you how even when the warder's cell is empty, the prisoner will even discipline himself. Because what? He wouldn't know whether the warder is there or is not there. But once they put this in the middle, they can control thousands of people, because everybody's cell, you can see the warder, you can see the warder's quarters and you can't see through, but the warder can see you and you don't know whether he is there or he's not there. But meanwhile, they've structured it in such a way that even if they go and it's empty, you will be sitting down there disciplining yourself. You won't do anything wrong because you think they are watching you. Panopticon, you can read about it, very, very fascinating way. And then of course, Foucault talk about sexuality. How in modern societies, we have separated what is normal sex and what is not normal sex. And when you do this, you are ostracized. Their societies. In fact, he was the main advocate of the gay rights. This is something you have to know, as I was talking about. That is what moved the gay rights movement in advanced society most. And he himself was a gay. He didn't make any secret about that, open gay, advocating for it. In fact, he died of HIV/AIDS in 1984. Okay. Now let me go finally to Jean Baudrillard. You think Derrida was radical, Foucault was radical. My favorite is Jean Baudrillard. He is the most radical of them all. He called himself a theta theorist. What he means by that is that he will push any theory you give to him to the point of its collapse. So he doubts everything. For him, nothing real even exists anymore. And he has a point. You have to remember he is a structuralist. The structuralists believe in science. And so science are things that are used to represent something. Okay, science are used to represent something. Science. Now, but he is trying to say, I was just going to figure out this book, but I have a picture here. Most of his right, small book called Simulation. Okay, science represents something, but now in advanced society, especially his main example is the US. US have moved into a situation where the science that represent physical things have also been signed. In other words, what we have is a sign of a sign. So the sign have been signed through cultural industry. The word cultural industry means through the media, through the advertisement, through the TV, through the social media. So they are all signs. So between me and the book was originally a sign. Now the book is not there. What we have is a copy or a sign of that sign. So the real book itself, we don't even get to see the real book. So that is why he used the word simulation. Simulation means a copy. Of course, if you are doing simulation of a classroom, then you are copying the real word and making it sound like it is the real word. So simulation is a copy. So we have entered into the time of simulation, whereby the sign used to be a sign of something physical. But now the sign itself have been copied and copied and copied. So if you want to come back to the real thing, you cannot even see through the signs to even get to the real thing. So reality has disappeared. We live in hyper reality. That is the word, hyper reality. Okay, let's go further. So now he talked about originally when art is there, we do a counterfeit of it. Okay, first you do a counterfeit and then you try to sell it. Then it came to mechanical copying, whereby we develop the photocopy machine. With the photocopy machine, if you have a birth certificate, you can have a copy of your birth certificate that is really better looking than the original. And that copy can be copied even better. And so when you want the original that is destroyed, you cannot even access it. The copy has replaced the original, and the copy has been replaced by another copy. So the original, you can't even see. This is through the mechanical reproduction. So that moves it into hyper reality. You can see the destabilization going on. And with this hyper reality, all this copy, you call them simulacra. So that is another way, simulacra, basically copy of a copy of a copy. So we live in a world where what we are dealing with is the simulacra. In other words, copy of a copy. So when you are dealing with something, really, you are not even dealing with the real thing. You are maybe dealing with a copy that have been copied and have been copied. The reality you don't even know anymore. That is very, very intriguing. Now, let's see here. So what you have in all this is a situation where you have, I'm trying to bring this a closer and open in terms of social science discourse. What has been the influence? I just want you to know this. First, social science have moved into all the global academy have moved into a realm of social resistance because of the influence of the postmodernity. We are speaking for the undertrodden. We are speaking for the suburban. The idea of Europe has the answer. They are the authority. They have the foundation, no longer sustainable. So we have anti-Eurocentrism. That is where you have things like post-colonial study. This is a good thing they have brought to bear. At those days, it's Western Europe, English this or British this or British. Now nobody accept those things anymore. All the academy is being subverted. That is the influence of Jacques Derrida, Baudrillard, and somebody like Foucault. That is the point you have to keep in mind, okay? Critical theory, through the work of, say, the Frankfurt School, Adorno, Hakama, and Marcuse, very, very prominent. Advocacy, science, social science, feminist movement, disability studies, gay rights, and racial rights, and all those things, very dominant because of the postmodern influence. So this is how they have influenced the academy. The study of diaspora communities, okay? If I'm here, I have the right to study my own community, or my own community speaking is legitimate because there's no foundation. Nobody has the key. Nobody has the answer. People have to listen to me too. The idea of intersectionality. So now the politics that Marx started dealing with class, politics of class, the rich versus the poor, have been turned around to be politics of identity, race, gender, sexuality. That is the politics now. Let me conclude with this. Now, the criticism. If you take postmodernism and post-structuralism, they have basically telling us that knowledge is not stable. There's no objective truth. Everything is open to deconstructionism. The reader is even refusing to define deconstructionism. Why? Because somebody else is going to deconstruct him. And oh, if you give me this, I'll deconstruct it. That I'll deconstruct it. Nothing can be pinned down. Logocentric text is not sustainable. I mean, they criticize everything. They have taught us enough. But the bottom line is, if they criticize everything, what gives them the exception that their point should be taken? So they are sowing the seed of their own destabilization. That is the point. The point is, you cannot tell me everything is a lie except what I am saying. No. If everything is a lie, that includes you are saying. So if postmodernists don't believe anything, then why should I believe postmodernism itself? That is the point. So they are sowing the seed of their own destabilization. That's the basic argument. So now they are in a situation where they want to create a situation where they want to argue that, okay, don't trust everything except myself. And how do they do that? There are a whole bunch of arguments coming. They are trying to say that they are just like a therapy. Okay, they are not doing philosophy, but their philosophy is a therapy of philosophy. In other words, they are using you to detect what is wrong. In fact, there was somebody called Wittgenstein. In his work, he talked about the philosopher now should consider himself as trying to just show the fly out of the fly box, or a situation where you are using a ladder, the Wittgenstein ladder. You can Google this, whereby you use the ladder to climb up. But when you get up to where you want to go, you have to pull down the ladder. You don't need it anymore. So that is the work of the philosopher. You show the fly out of the fly box. And with this, I'll end here and listen to your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Mensah. Can we give a clap? Can we all
So any question that you have, I don't want to extend it, but I can go this all day. You can see how I enjoy doing this. I invested a lot of thought, a lot of my academic life in philosophy, even though I'm a geographer. To be frank, I do a lot of quantitative analysis. And I have a way of combining philosophy and quantitative and everything. Okay, now your questions.
Yes, so kindly mute yourself. If you have a question, then you unmute. But this has been an interesting and excellent presentation. So if you have any clarifications or questions for Prof, kindly do that. My students, if you don't ask the question, you know there's a question that I've given to you already. But don't ask that question here, because you're supposed to. But if you need any clarification on anything, I know Center for Migration students too are around. So it's question time.
I'm just gonna make this big so that I can see people.
Dr. Zami, good afternoon.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, good afternoon.
Prof. Mensah, this is Francis, second year PhD, Center for Migration. Thank you for the lecture. But mine is not a question, it's a request. That during the philosophies, my class really struggled with critical realism, Basca.
Mhm.
And I've tried going around it. It's still like a mystery.
Mhm.
So I don't know if in one of your sessions, another time, you may consider breaking it down for some of us who struggle with it a little.
You see, mostly I deal with requests coming from Ghana. Of course, I teach here, but when requests come from Ghana, I always take it as a premium and I invest in it. So it's something I can consider. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you
Of course,
so
I will
much.
consider Center for Migration Study. You can ask your prof, Dr. Tay, Professor Tay, and Leander. That is my home. You may not know me, but that is really my home. Okay, so that is something I will be happy to. Okay, any other question?
Hello, Prof. Hello, Prof.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, Prof. My name is Francis. I'm Center for Migration Studies.
Mm-hmm.
First year. My problem is the post-modernism thought
Mm-hmm.
in Europe has given way to the various diversities we see today.
Mm-hmm.
And in your presentation, it's like those of us in Africa, for instance, in Ghana,
Mm-hmm.
we are still with the modernism. And therefore, we believe in the fundamentals that we should preserve what we have.
Yeah, very good point.
Now we also believe that the post-modernism thought or way of thinking that is bringing the diversity is destabilizing our society.
Mm-hmm.
And how do we marry the two? How do I leave my fundamentalism to go to post or my modernism, which I think, by and large, is holding my society together? I believe that man and man marry, they produce or they proclaim we have the next generation coming after us, taking over from us. You are believing in postmodernism, and therefore you have all diversity of ways of doing things, and is also destabilizing society. How do we marry the two? How can I leave mine and go for what I think? And I'm asking this question because in your concluding statement, you also mentioned that all that they have put forward, if they can't believe in what somebody else has done, then why do you also believe in them? What's the justification of what they are leading us to is the best way forward? Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. One way to look at this is the fact that at least they have shown us to be open in our thinking. At least they have shown us that we have to be mindful of foundationalism. Now, it is easy for you to say how your society, I can problematize that. Do you know there have been gay people in Ghana way back then? What makes you think it is your society? You see, right there is that different. So embedded in what you are saying is a power dynamic because you are the power. And so, in other words, the society is suppressing a group. They are there. The white people are not coming to create the gay among you. They are already there, but they don't have a voice. So it's not like the Westerners are coming to create gays. No, that is what you have to keep up. It's a normal thing that is embedded in power dynamics there. So there is a group that is being suppressed. So what I want you to think about is carefully. I'm not going to defend this or that. I'll get it myself. I can defend it, but I will never come to Ghana and attempt to defend that because I know I don't want to be killed there. Okay, I won't come there to defend, but I can defend. I can really come to defend it. You have to remember, it is an effort by some in power to so it's an effort to suppress difference. Now, what that makes it that you see how all the pastors are speaking against the gay thing. Let me put it this way and think it through. Which one is a bigger sin? A pastor who is married and have 4 different wives or girlfriends, not even wife. If it's wife, I will accept it because it's out in the open. 4 different girlfriends and having affairs over the place and keep that versus a gay person having a sexual relation with another gay person. What is who is committing a bigger sin? who is committing a gay person having something that is open with somebody, two of them agree, and a pastor who is married and having all this affair. But what it does is it gives the pastor the chance to basically cover what they are doing. That is how it is. So therefore you expose the other thing. That is what Foucault, they tell us. It gives you your term to suppress differences, to suppress what you are doing. So now everybody is jumping into that. How often have the pastor talk about what they are doing that is not good? But now you see how they are all jumping onto that, as if that is the one that is going to kill the society. If it's going to destroy the society, America has not been destroyed. Keep this in mind. US and Canada and all those things, they were all like that. The gay people had to hide. They had to hide. They had to hide. They were being killed, but it has moved on and the society is not being destroyed. Gay, you can go to the Greeks, Aristotle, Socrates, and all those places. It is something you can never do away with. It has been there. Anything to suppress it is just power. That's what it is. It is really, I don't know, if somebody is going to be gay and there are people, society is ready to kill them and they are still gay, I don't think it is just as simple as you talk about. How would they want to be there? Some people commit suicide for being gay. They see themselves as gay and they commit suicide. You think they want to be that like that? It is not simple, but the society have not opened up to that. And they have not opened up and have a discussion. The gay people themselves at times hate themselves and actually commit suicide. It's all over the place. So you think that is what they want? Maybe it's natural. We don't know. Maybe it's behavioral. Maybe you don't know. Maybe it's both. But at the point of it, open up. Even Jesus said, love your enemy. So it didn't say hate them. But if you hate them the way you guys are hating them, don't tell me that is Christianity. Jesus will not have hated them. That is all I have to say. But I think you have to move on from this before I get myself into trouble.
Hello, Prof.
Hello, Prof.
Yeah.
Tesla. Continue.
Hello, Prof. Please, this is Priscilla, first year MPhil student, geography. Please, when my colleague asked a question and he wanted to find out how we should marry the postmodernism and then the modernism. And I can't remember that you said we should be open in our thinking. And I wanted to find out what should be the extent. Where do we draw the line in being opening in our thinking? Because I feel that when you become too open to, it opens way for waywardness in our society.
There's no two ways about that. Really, there's no two ways. That is the difficulty of postmodern thought. Okay, that is the difficulty of postmodern thought. In other words, for any society to move forward, there should be some center. There should be something that we all agree on. To the extent that postmodernism is trying to destabilize all the center, the logos, that is a problem. Because unless we agree on something, we cannot even call ourselves, if it's a discipline. Because a discipline by definition have a central core where the adherents will know this is what we do, this is what we don't do, this is what we agree, this is how you do and how you can pass, or how you can fail. If you don't even have a criteria for pass and fail, how are we even going to have an institution? So I will admit, and of course, that is a problem, but at the very least you have to be open. But at some point, we have to solidify some center. But the center solidification have to admit of differences coming to bear in a discussion. So discuss it and then eventually come to a conclusion. In fact, Haberman talk about communication rationality. In other words, our rationality have to be communicative. Jochen Haberman, you can Google him. That is where he is coming from. The whole idea of communication in democracy, let people bring their idea, and then at the end of it, we come to some consensus. That's where Haberman. But you can't right away because you have power, you blunt other people. If that is the case, somebody like me, I won't have the chance to speak here because I'm a minority. Who am I coming from Ghana to come and teach in academy and try? No, okay? But they open up and I have an idea and they benefit. You see, academy and knowledge move forward only through the clash of the majority of the minority. That is dialectic. Unless what is there, the power clashes with an external body, you don't get oppression or movement forward, because you are caught up in what you know, and you know that is all. It is the Muslim coming here and coming to tell you there's something different. And then you look at, you may not like it, but by the time you borrow some idea from, and then you move forward. Another person come and clash it. And then you move forward, and you learn from it, and you subtract, and you move on. That is how things go. But if you stay blind, like I got a call, I don't want to listen to anything, then you are making a mistake.
Hello, Prof.
Yeah.
Hello, Prof.
Yeah, this is David Owusu Crunchy, a second year
Yeah,
PhD
David,
student.
go ahead.
Yeah. You made mention of two philosophers. That's the group continental and then analytic one. I want to find out those philosophers coming from Africa. Where can we praise them? And probably the Asian.
Yeah, okay. No, you see, that is the trouble of the academy. That's the trouble of the academy of this. For instance, most of African scholars are writing as if they are Westerners, or they are, depending on where they are. Most of these discussion, in fact, there is African philosophical thought that is emerging, and of course, also part of the postmodern philosophy. Okay, that's also part of the postmodern idea of diversity, and it's merging. I can give you people like Cornel West in Cornel West in the U.S. He writes mostly a black scholarship. You can talk about, you can Google this guy Kwame Anthony Appiah. Kwame Anthony Appiah is one of the best philosophers in the world now. He's a Ghanaian. He's in Harvard, but coming from the African continent, because you have not been active in terms of this. But what I'm trying to say, a lot of people are writing and carving some black African identity one, but it is being accepted, and obviously, but it's not penetrating the system well, and that also goes to play with power and knowledge. Play that at all, because they don't have much power. It takes a long time to come in. Okay, but that is not to say that they are not writing. It's a very legitimate critique that you have put across. But it is even better under postmodernism, because it is open to diversity and different.
Thank you, Prof.
Hello, Prof.
Yeah,
Yeah, Prof, please, thank you very much for the lecture. But my concern is, I stand to be corrected. Looking at the reader's stand, and then what the question my colleagues asked earlier, that we should try to think aloud. Are we not bounded by or limited by these structures and then concept? Because if, let's say, everybody is doing it and you think that, oh no, what they are doing is right, but for society, sometimes that is what the society accepts. So when you find yourself in such a situation, what can you do? Because as you rightly said about this gazing and what have you, it has been in Ghana for some time. It's not just, it's just resurface. But it's like because of our culture, they were not able to come out. It's possible that somebody might have spotted it or wanted to say something about it. But until now, they were still in their hideout doing their own thing, not under somebody. So if we are bounded by these structures and this what they call it, network around us, what can we do? What can we do about it? Because some of the things that they're looking at, the way society accepts it, it becomes some way. If you want to talk or if you want to think outside the box, I'm a bit confused about it. Please, can you clear my
I know. You see, the whole idea, I will be frank, Ghana is not an open society. Most African societies are not open, no matter what they say. It's not open society. We are very quick to jump on you if you have a different idea. You see, that is the trouble why society move forward through ideas. That's what it is. But we think we are settled, and if you call, they talk is our culture. No, culture is not stable. Culture is not static. It keep on moving. It keep on changing. I mean, really, if you have to, my culture, we will not be having this discussion now. Why? Because our culture will not allow us. Let me give it this way. If we are dealing and we are still stuck in our culture and African culture, I'll speak, I'm a Bono. Somebody is a Ga, somebody is a Ewe, somebody, you will not even be able to have a lingua franca, which is in English language, that will allow us to speak. Okay, that is how we move forward. So if you were stuck in our culture and we didn't even learn English, we couldn't even communicate because I don't understand Ga, you don't understand Bono, you don't understand Ewe, this person doesn't understand. So you see, society, the whole idea of our culture, so you don't want to change, is really not a legitimate argument. Culture is never static. Those who do that is a power dynamic. They want to suppress difference. Keep that in mind.
Prof, this is Francis.
Yep.
Second year, again, Center for Migration. I think that with philosophies, what we are learning is also try to put things into the perspectives of research. That though the structures are there, for instance, structuralism does not tell us why people in the same place, some decide to leave and some others decide to stay under the same structures. So I believe what the reader is saying is to, even though the society may not be open, academia is already open to whatever research direction we want to go, because there are nuances that former researchers may not have conceptualized. But with the deconstructionism and all the postmodernism tenets, we are able to, whatever you sleep and wake up to come up with, if you're able to conceptualize it into academia, it might bring a different path that other people have not seen yet.
Perfect.
So for us as students, I would say that even though the society may not be that open to some of the cultural issues and even the academic concept, that, I mean, we believe that there's a lot of Eurocentrism in academia. For instance, the foresight, for instance, it just shot up immediately because the five whites came up with it. It just shot up.
Yeah.
So, but we can think aloud and be able to get some nuances that others may not have thought about, so that we move away from the regular structures. So I believe that this is what the lecture is trying to bring us to bear.
Francis, look at this. This is the debate that we are having. You see the way I was thinking about it. I'm talking about Black African. Look at here. There's a paper at home studio. I think Mariama, you wrote a paper in that special issue. You can pull that paper for them. Somewhere in the middle, I make this deconstructionist move. I was trying to make a case that the way Africans think about return migration, especially those from migration studies, and of course, geographers and everybody, okay? I was trying to make a case that the way we think about return migration is different. And I was thinking about maybe it is unique. Why we come here as Africans and we come with the least resources. Okay, if you come with least resource, you are poor before you got here, you can't even buy your house here. When you come, you have to struggle. It will affect your return migration. You come here as a Black person, you are discriminated against, it will affect your return migration. You come here with a continent where people is talking negative about it and you are here, it will affect. You come here from, say, Somalia, where there are a lot of fighting going on, and then you can't even go back, it will affect your return migration. You come here in a culture where you are so tied to the land. So everywhere you go, you can go back to your family land and you can, here it is not like that. Nobody's tied to any land. So it will affect your return. So I thought about all these things and I said, whoa, it looks like our situation is unique. Then I realized that if I use unique, then I'm pushing too much. And I can't defend it, because if you think about it, some other societies will be doing that. So, okay, let me just take out the unique. That's why I can't say unique here, and Puka is just different. Okay, it's different. You can talk about it. So these are all things. So what I'm trying to say is that we have to be open to this type of thinking, and don't ever think that the culture in Ghana or Africa is different. or it is unique. It is different, but it is not unique. Mind you, Europe and America had gone through the same thing where the gay people were hiding. That is what I want you to remember. It is only recently that they are able to come out, you know. So it is not like you are the only one where they have to hide. They were hiding here. And even still, they are not even open. People are not open. So it's just culture growing. It's not like African culture is unique and we are different and we can't change. No, they were like that. And it's just with influence, they move on. They move on. So you have to, it's not like that is how Africa is. If you want to be stuck with that, then you will never grow. Cultures grow. That is all I'm trying to say. You may not be open up to gay, but at least open it up in such a way that they have freedom as human beings. Nobody is trying to tell you to change yourself to gay, but allow them some freedom, okay, to operate as human beings. Most of the development that goes on in terms of innovation, believe it or not, most of the people behind it are gay people. Go dig up Da Vinci, go give up, in fact, Socrates, go give up a lot of the development. I don't know why, but just go dig up. If you're a philosopher, you will know those very innovative people tend to be gay people, right from way back in history. Okay, so if you think they are not there among you Ghanaians, they are already there, except you have suppressed them. Don't tell them. It's not the Westerner telling you to be gay or bringing it there. They are not bringing anything. They are there, and it has always been there. That is one thing I want to leave with them. It's just the power dynamic is said that they are behind the scenes, just like they were behind the scenes here in the West until recently.
Hello. Hello, Prof.
Yeah.
This is Stephen Leonard, first year for geography.
Yes, Stephen. Yeah.
Yeah. My question has to do with what we are saying that African societies should open up. I think looking at the assumptions of the postmodernists, looking at not giving emphasis to history and foundational knowledge, aren't we looking at the African societies with the lens of the foreign world or the foreign thought, as other theories have done and as other propositions have done? Always trying to look at African societies, African happenings with what pertains in the foreign world, because I think that every society is unique in its always. So I think we should write our own story. Our story should also stand that yes, this is what we subscribe to. And shouldn't necessarily be trying to, even though we are opening up, but you can open up in a way that doesn't actually disrupt your foundation, disrupt your roots.
Yes, very good.
I think so. I think so, because a lot of the literature which have looked at African happenings in other angles, not only what you are doing, but in other angles, have tried to describe African happenings with the lens of the foreign world. And I think that has been telling the wrong story of Africa.
Of course.
So,
of
yes,
course.
yes. So I think if opening up is going to give us problems, we can open up in our own way, in a way that tells other side of our story, but not a way that subscribes to another person's culture.
Okay. Listen to this carefully.
Hello, Dr. Mensah. I just want to follow up with what he has said. I want to follow up. My question was actually on that. And I wanted to add that if you look at it, are we not pushing too hard and trying to label Africa as not being open, thereby going against what even the reader is advising us, not to actually take words the way they mean, but rather to always be critical about some of these things. Because if you look at it, as you said, yes, culture is dynamic, it's not stable. But as to when you open up depends on everybody and your time. It's just like in the 1970s that you spoke about the post-modernism. Everything happened. If you look at the whole process of structuralism, everything happens with time. So are we not pushing it too hard on Africa?
I think
that we need to open up right now. And then we are being critical of Africa with the foreign lens. So can't we give Africa the time?
Let me put it this way, my friends. Please be mindful of what I'm saying here. What you have to keep in mind, I don't know the dynamics of gay or whatever, but I'm just trying to let you know how come the West is so open? And mostly it's due to the influence of
Hello, Dr. Manson, it's not necessarily even about the gay thing per se. There are a lot of things. For example, if you look at Africa, there were certain times that you couldn't even sit with your own parents and then have a conversation.
Yeah, yeah.
Times have changed.
Yeah.
Now we are able to sit down and have a proper conversation, analytical conversation with your parents as to what you wish for in your own life.
Yeah.
That means that the culture is what is revolving.
Yeah, yeah.
And so academia, we can write on things, but when it comes to the open society, we may push too hard for them to accept what the academia is actually presenting out there. So that is my point. It is not necessarily on only the gay, but certain aspects too. Generally, we may actually bring about knowledge, but how to put it forward in the open society, we may have to take our time for the society generally to accept it. Then we take off together.
Perfect. What I want to put across is this: regardless of whatever you think the West is pushing you to, okay, most of the time, it is really an internal struggle, you know. It is really an internal struggle. Now, what I want to put across is this idea of power. What you would think that this is how we do this is really not that simple. You don't have an authority in the reader sense to tell me how you do things in Ghana. What about the person who is gay in Ghana? What about the person who is the child who was not being able to speak? It's not the white person telling the child to speak out. It's not a white person. It's the person, that person internally. Forget about the whites. Okay? You have to remember it's an internal struggle, but internally there is a power dynamics going on. Those who have the power to say which one we listen to, which one we don't. Forget about the external. But what I'm trying to say, you can talk about the gay, you can talk about the child who was not able to speak, you can talk about the woman who is not able to speak. It is the woman in Ghana who is confronting the man in Ghana. It has nothing to do. But mind you, it is outside influence that is really giving some impetus to it. But the point is that when, for instance, national health insurance is there, if you go to the prescription and the medicine that they give out, if you do it, if mostly it was men who were deciding which one go on the list and which, if it is prostate cancer, maybe it will go on the list. If it is breast cancer, it may not go on the list. But by the time you realize, if you bring a feminist eye to bear on it, it will change things. It has not nothing to do with an external person, but because the woman in Ghana internally didn't have the power, their views were not being heard. You forget about the outside person. So what I'm trying to say is that it is a power dynamics internally. So now, if until recently, disabled people were not heard, it has nothing to do with any external person. The women were not heard, has nothing to do with any external person. The gay one is getting noise because of the people, it's the power, but it is internal thing. So take out the external, nobody is pushing Ghana to do anything. If the push is coming, it is an idea where we have to remember this. Transnationality and what we call interpenetration of the outside cultural hybridity. That's the term. Some will use the word localization as a term. Global and local merging. Once the airplanes are going back and forth, the diaspora community is coming back and forth, whether you like it or not, the ideas will come in. Okay? And it is a good thing. If you want to wait till your time, what time? Whose time is it? You are talking about your time. Your time. What about the Ghanaian who is being oppressed? He will not think it is his time now, and you think your time. Who decides whose time it is? That is what you have to think about. But now, because things have been normalized and it favors some of you, you think that is the normal and that is your time. But what about the gay person in Ghana? What about the woman in Ghana who was being suppressed? You will not think that the time is not ready. He thinks the time is ready. So the power dynamics is what you, at times, the power is said that you assume that is the norm, but really the norm is defined by those who wield power. That's my point.
Prof,
Prof, I wanted to.
We should be concluding now. So let's just take one question. Last question. Done.
So can I accept?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
I was looking at post-constructionism bringing, looks like it advocates more for freedom. But once someone tries to get freedom, it becomes a problem. Let's look at a country like Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe started land redistribution to help its own people. But they encountered a lot of problems. But when you look at land redistribution, even during the Greek era, during the Gracchus period, they redistributed land, and that helped the people to start life all over, and there was peace, and everybody attained the status at that time. But when Zimbabwe tried land redistribution, the powers that be it tried to collapse the country, and it worsened up when this gay issue thing came in. So it's like it is a force that you must join them. If you don't join them, we bring you down. Are they being fair to Africa?
Yeah, you see, now what I'm trying to say is that you, as an African intellectual, you have to argue strongly, or we as African intellectuals, what Mugabe was doing and what the whole idea of power creating knowledge is a legitimate argument. Nobody's going to deny that. If a Westerner comes in and try to tell you to have a gay person this, a gay person that, and you are not good, fine, you can argue, because that is a power dynamic. Because if the Westerner doesn't have the power of, say, the purse of giving you money and loans tied to this and loans tied to this, all those loans tied to whether you accept gay or not, it's a power play. And that is also what postmodernisms are trying to tell us, to be mindful and criticize. Okay, so the fact that they are using their power to influence what you are not ready for is wrong from the standpoint of postmodernism. Because Foucault, for instance, will talk about the fact that you have to be mindful of power. Okay, so it is, all I'm trying to say is that you have to keep this idea in mind. When people normalize idea, this is our normal, Foucault will tell you what you think normally is socially constructed. And if the Western thing to be gay and to do this and to this is the normal, it is socially constructed based on the fact that they have power. Just like in Ghana, if you think this is the normal, this is normal, it is also socially constructed based entirely on power dynamics. So it goes both ways, and it's, in geographic term, it is scalar. Let me take this opportunity and use this sheet here as final. Now, if you don't know philosophy much, you wouldn't know what this is called. This picture is very common. You can Google it. It's a Raphael, an artist in Italy. He drew this, Raphael, School of Athens. In that school, if you know Plato, Plato is really, philosophers will tell Plato is not a real name. His real name is Aristotles. Okay, the Plato is a nickname. I think many think it was given to him by his gym teacher because he was stocky. So right away you can see Plato is this one here. Okay, and then this is Aristotle, Plato's teacher. You see Aristotle's hand is going like this. Plato's hand is this. You can Google Plato's heaven. Plato is a very abstract thinker. So this is what Raphael wants to leave us. Very abstract thinker. Think about it in the abstract and all those things. If we talk about Plato's form, you think you are sitting on a chair, and I'm sitting on a chair. These chairs are all different, but they all have 4 legs. So these are not the real chairs you are sitting on. You know, the real chair is in heaven, and it's a form that has 4 chairs up there. It's abstract. Aristotle is an empirical person. You see how he's pointing to the ground. Plato, come down to the ground. You see? Come down to the ground. So Aristotle looking things on the ground, on the surface. Plato pointing to the abstract. So I will leave with you as a scholar. Think abstractly as Plato, just as you are looking on the ground for empirical evidence. So some of these things, and Socrates and all those people, Derrida for one, will say that you think you have the answers, it never ends. It never ends. Nobody can solve it. It keep on going. But our point is to be able to see the power in it and how things are. Okay. I think this has been a very, very fruitful enterprise for me and for you guys. And you can see my enthusiasm in doing this. I just want to encourage you guys, young ones coming, don't get boxed in an argument. Try to always be open, okay? And challenge your own assumptions, especially when you think something is very normal. Think about what normalizes it. and think about the power embedded in it. Mariama, somebody should just bring us to a close.
Okay. Thank you very much. This lecture has been insightful. The geography students, MPhil 1 students, what do you say to Prof? Della, course rep, what do you say to Prof. Joseph Mensah?
Honorable Professor Mensah, yeah, we are so grateful for everything you've done, and the success that you've established in simplifying and anchoring the theories that we have battled with over the course of the week in this lecture have been very passionate. We are very thankful, and we hope that we would have a lot more lectures with you in the future so that you can clarify a lot of the things that we've been fumbling with, because I've learned so much today. I'm sure I can speak on behalf of my class that we've learned too many things that we thought we knew but have been clarified beyond reach. So we are very grateful.
Yeah,
thank
you
very much.
guys. Thank you. And Mariama, thank you for putting this together. That is all you can do to engage, help us engage. Okay.
So thanks a lot, Ghana Communication Technology University. Thank you, Center for Migration Studies.
Migration Studies. Thank you, Valley View University. This has been good. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks a lot. And thank you, Prof. Joseph Mensah. I know you are a busy person, so for me to be able to have this opportunity, I'm really...
See, that is why I brought in Ghana Technology and Ghana Valley View and Center, because I think this is something we all can share ideas, but instead of doing it for you and maybe I then have to do it for the time is really not there. So if I get opportunity and you guys, then it's Zoom anyway, and it's not costing anybody, and we are just all sharing ideas. And I think that is the service we can all provide as Ghanaians. Yeah. So thank you.
Of the Western world, just imagine the Zoom.
Yeah.
If we wanted to think African, then we should be sitting under trees.
That's what it is, you know. Okay. Yeah. Don't tell us it's not our time. I mean, if it's not your time, it's somebody's time in Ghana. So who decided time? So we have to push forward. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you so much, and God bless you all. Bye-bye.
Well, so you send me the recording, and then
I will send you the recording if I can pull it out because of the site, but I'll try. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And Dr. Zami.
Yes, Francis.
Dr. Zami, you know you are one of the most generous people on the face of the earth.
I can see Theodorus. I can see. Let me see people here.
Yeah.
Prof.
Let me see here.
Prof.
Yes.
Prof. Dr. Zami is one of the very generous people on the face of the earth.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So I'm going to ride on her generosity to please ask of your intentions article.
Okay, I'll come to you, Francis.
Yeah, Marama can get anything from me later on, okay? So,
yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Marama can get anything from me. Yeah, okay. Cynthia is here. Okay, Vivian is there. Oh dear. A lot of people, I couldn't even get a chance to say hello to people.
Yeah, there were more than 80.
Yeah. Oh goodness. Oh my goodness. So many people.
Yes. Dr. Zami.
Hey, it's crunch time. Who is calling me?
It's Vivian. Let's see your face.
Oh, really?
Oh my goodness, that is really impressive.
Hey, oh my God, long time.
Yeah, Marama, I think the understanding was okay, right?
Yes, Prof. Yes, Prof.
Okay.
Can you see my
face? Hi.
Okay, I'm gonna.
Theodorus is here.
Oh yeah, I saw Theodorus. Hi, Theo.
Hello, hi, Dr. Mensah. How are you?
Bifty was joining us too. Yeah. So,
yes.
Okay, I'm gonna cut the recording because otherwise it's gonna be a big file.
Okay, please do.
Okay, so everybody take care.
Take care.
And all right. Dominique was also somewhere from New York, and I saw GTVC people all over the place. No, this is so exciting. Next time. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye.